Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Hey, everybody.
Ruben Bressler.
Oh, good evening. How are you doing?
Oh, good evening. Oh, it's quite the fine evening.
Fancy seeing you here.
It's enchanted.
Oh, wow.
We're getting fancy.
Oh, okay.
That's right. Well, look, we also get started with our Trumpet Blast, which you can get one if you support us at our highest level on Patreon. We don't have one this week, but we may have one next. But we also kick it off with our first pick in the giveaway. The giveaway is exclamation mark raffle in the chat to be entered for a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com. Remember, next week we're giving away a full box O Ravnica Allegiance.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that we do that.
Yeah, we do that.
That's awesome.
That's going to be happy fun times. So we'll make sure we give that away. And we get started with the first pick. And the first pick this week is that there was a banned and restricted announcement, and thank God, Krark-Clan Ironworks is banned in Modern. Get out of here. Go on. You suck. No one liked you. Go home. And okay, Matt and I liked you a lot. No one else liked you. It was awkward. It was weird. It worked in different different timing activations because they were mana abilities and stuff. Like all of that stuff was just gross. And they didn't want to ban something more generic, but because that would impact other decks like Ancient Stirrings, for example. And there was a great explanation as to why they chose this card, not the others. It was weird to play. It was difficult at times to understand. It certainly sucked for coverage, and I don't miss it 1 second.
Yeah, this was a very, a lot of eyes were on this ban and restricted announcement. Modern is a format that no one's ever really ever happy with Modern. If there's always, anytime a deck does well, we've got to ban something. There are a lot of decks that people don't like. And so going into this ban and restricted announcement, there was a lot of talk about Ancient Stirrings, Mox Opal, Faithless Looting was one that was coming up, obviously KCI. And so there was also talk of unbannings. Stoneforge Mystic was a popular target. The Dreamers were thinking that, Splinter Twin might get unbanned. And so a lot of eyes were on this announcement. And I think nobody was really surprised to see KCI go. Just a very unpopular, very polarizing deck that seems to break a lot of the rules of Modern in terms of speed, in terms of fun. Fun is an argument that they've used before when it comes to banning other decks. And so I wasn't surprised to see that they aimed it at this one. And it seems to be, there's a lot of talk of how it's going to open up the field. There's been talk of Burn seeing more play because of cards from Guilds of Ravnica Allegiance. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens to the metagame after this. But I think nobody was surprised to see this happen.
Yeah, I think that it's it wasn't surprising so much as people's reactions were, oh, that's interesting. Because traditionally, for the Modern bans in particular, they don't completely sweep the leg out from underneath an archetype. Typically, what they do is they take out a support piece. They take out Bloodbraid Elf or Deathrite Shaman. They take out Gitaxian Probe. They take out Ponder and Preordain. They don't take out Grape Shot, right? They don't take out Glistener Elf. They don't take out the headliners.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of folks were thinking they're going to take out Ancient Stirrings, they're going to take out Mox Opal, but they actually went for the throat here. And the reason why is because Krark-Clan Ironworks, the card, is specifically the rules nightmare. You probably could have gotten rid of Scrap Trawler, or you could have gotten rid of whatever, but Krark-Clan Ironworks makes the rules, specifically with Chromatic Star, really difficult and unintuitive. In addition to the fact that it's unfun to watch, in addition to the fact that it's the most complicated loop that you can imagine, it was an extremely powerful, perhaps overpowered archetype, and yet was a very minimal part of the metagame because it was so unintuitive, because it was so complex. And so it's a good change, and I think most folks are pleased about it.
I have to say that the thing I found the most interesting is shortly after the announcement came out, Aaron Forsyth said something on Twitter talking about the win rate of KCI, and then he addressed the people that were talking about Stoneforge Mystic, and he was like, Stoneforge Mystic won't be unbanned because right after KCI, control decks have the next best win rate. And I think everybody was like,
interesting.
In what world? Because
right.
Control decks have sort of this stereotype or this image about them as sort of being fine, but like no one really, you know, they just have this attitude of like, oh, look at all the Jeskai control players. Jeskai's never putting up results, but damn it, they're going to play Jeskai control. And so I know a lot of people were like, what data are you using? Because nobody takes control deck seriously in Modern.
I mean, do they or don't they, rather?
I
don't know. It's always just like
possible that he is quantifying Tron as a control deck.
No, he specifically said blue-white control decks because he said the reason why you guys aren't getting Stoneforge Mystic is because the control decks are doing so well that they don't need it. Like, it would be too much. And I was like, where are you getting this from?
Right.
Because nobody...
It's Magic. First of all, it's Magic Online. Like, that's where they're getting it. It's the data they won't show us, and they won't tell us, and they won't let us scrape it. Otherwise, they get super pissed because
everybody has... You know, I think anyone who sees a control deck, there's this feeling of, like, kind of the chuck across the jaw of, like, oh, you, like, little goofy little control player. Like,
right. Yeah.
I mean, but the win rates don't lie. Like, I don't believe
where? I'm not seeing these control players do well. Where is this happening? Show me.
Remember, they only post so many decks from the 5-0
I know.
list.
I'm just saying is he's obviously seeing things that we aren't. And so I'm just like, where are you getting this from?
You can get the math to say whatever you want it to say, is what I'm saying.
Well, you can't get the win rate to be whatever you want it to be, because if it's over 56%, something's getting banned. And Matt Nass had a freaking 90% game win percentage with KCI. It's insane. So, speaking of Matt, there happened to be one Paulo Vitor de Mendoza who happened to be in the same area as Matt Nass right now, who said he was in the shower and he yelled, "They banned KCI." The water stopped and he's been wailing "no" for minutes. Should I call 911? Yes.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. I like how the water stopped. Just like,
yeah, the water stop is really good. It's a really good scene from a sitcom for sure.
Yeah.
The other one that was good was Kotaku's article that came out about the banning was called Magic Bans Top Pros Pet Card. Which was like a pretty big dagger. And the image is Matt Nass with Krark-Clan Ironworks on his screen doing a video about it.
Nice.
A couple of formats that didn't see any attention. I know a lot of eyes were on Pauper. I know Kendra Smith and Alex Ullman had been very vocal about the fact that, you know, the blue decks were, you know, possibly getting to be too good, what with foil, you know, being a thing in the format now, the Delver decks. And in Vintage, a lot of people have been clamoring for Paradoxical Outcome, which somehow evaded another restriction. So I hope that both of those formats get a little bit of love in the future.
Yeah.
It's weird what they define as this is fun and this is not fun. This is okay. This is not okay. And at which point things break. Again, for me, at least as I've heard in the past, it's like 56% is the magic number. If your win percentage is that or greater, something is going to happen because that's just too far in the needle. But either way,
think about Matt Nass's win percentage and how bad all of the other KCI players had to be
to drag it down.
It's not easy to pilot deck.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
And it relies on a lot of weird stuff, which is awkward. So,
and they main deck Graveyard Hate, bunch of monsters.
I know, right? The worst.
A lot of the decks do. A lot of the decks do now. 5% of the metagame is Dredge, Aaron. I hate to break it to you, but the Graveyard's a recourse.
Well, moving on here, I'm going to bring up a little something that Cool Stuff Inc. tweeted. I believe it was yesterday, or yes, it was yesterday.
That's the guy who works for the company.
Well, I've Death and Family. I've been traveling.
Of our show,
and is a sponsor, which is great. So, and this is where I work. This is my day job. That's what I do. And it's like, what is this? What is this weird Lotus thing? It's really odd. Well,
Aaron, let's guess what it is. I think they're opening a pot shop.
I think they're opening a new diversity initiative because there was rainbows.
I see. Okay, well, I want you guys to go first of all for the shtick. I want you to go back to the 1960s, 1970s. Go check out Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour because it sounds.
Born then, Evan. We're not that old.
Yeah, I didn't.
I've watched the Magical Mystery Tour.
It's a wonderful little thing. Well, look, here's a question. Here's a question that I want to find out the answer to. And over at least the next 2 Fridays, we'll see how it goes. But over the next 2 Fridays, I want Magic players to answer a few questions.
All right.
I'm going to open on stream. Again, Friday at noon is when this is going to happen. On stream, I want to open a box of Ravnica Allegiance. But before I do, I want to auction off everything in it. But I don't want to just auction off like packs or whatever. How much would you pay if I said I'm going to open this box and every Planeswalker I get is yours? Whether it's foil, whether I open 2 of them or 0 of them. If I open some, they're yours. How much would you pay for every creature that I pulled? There's a lot of creatures in the set, good, bad, and ugly. How much would you pay for that? How much would you pay for every mythic I pulled out of that box? Because we'll find out. And at some point,
giving you offers.
Someone wants to say, and that's fine, because that's what we're going to do on that stream. We'll bring up a little something here for you. This is the Magical Mystery Auction. It's coming Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard. You're going to hang out with me at Cool Stuff Inc. headquarters, and we're going to figure out exactly what those types of setups are going to be worth to the average gamer. And if you give me $5 and I pull, a foil Dovin or whatever, that's fine. That's yours for whatever you wanted to pay for it. And if I pulled 0, then all I got to say is I'm sorry, because we don't know what's in there. But would you give, how much for every Gruul card in a box?
Oh, geez.
How much for every
Gruul watermark? Man.
Yep. Every red-green card and/or has a Gruul watermark if it's a monocolored card.
So are you setting? So let me clarify. So let's say someone offers to buy all of the planeswalkers that you open, and then someone else offers to buy all of the Gruul cards that you open, and you open Montgomery.
Those streams won't cross. There'll be 3 different types of auctions. The first auction will be by rarity. How much would you do if it were all the mythics in the box, all the rares in the box, so on and so forth. The other's going to be by type. This is going to be all the planeswalkers, all the creatures, all the instants and sorceries and other stuff. And we have this set up, and I'll clearly explain it. We got graphics and everything.
Cool.
And the last one would be by guild, which is, again, all the guild stamp cards and the monocolor cards and whatnot. So you have the different setups, and we're going to see how the different setups work, because this is new and crazy. This has never been done in Magic. Feel free to correct me if someone has ever done this. This is taking a cue from the sports card world, where they'll do things like, I'm going to open up this football, these football cards, and you get all the Kansas City Chiefs, and somebody else gets all the
Isn't there something like this on one of the reality shows where it's like there's like a storage shed or a garage, and they
Storage Wars.
How much is in the garage?
Wars. I love
there
it.
We go.
Yep. So we'll be able to create those setups, and essentially I'll be like, all right, we're bidding for all the mythics in the box, go. And we keep going until somebody finally gets a high bid, and then we say, okay, please pay this a PayPal address, and we get that money. And once all the money for all the different categories is in, I open the box and we see what happens.
Okay.
And I'm pumped to see what's gonna happen.
I have to ask though, why rainbows?
Because it's the Magical Mystery Tour. If you look up Google Magical Mystery Tour, and you'll see what I'm saying.
Okay. But this could be a lot gayer.
Could be gayer.
There could be gayer. This is what they call box breaks or whatever in the sports card world. And again, to me, this is exciting and interesting, because I've never seen this done. I love doing new, unique things in Magic that no one has ever done before. And I'm pumped, and I hope it works out. It's going to be the debut of the Cool Stuff Inc. Twitch channel. Twitch.tv/Cool Stuff Inc. will be a thing.
That's the headline for me.
Yeah.
Is the new channel.
Yes. And
I think that's insane. I'm looking forward to, don't get me wrong, I'm not the target audience for this show, is my thing.
Sure.
But I definitely, Cool Stuff Inc. is a huge force in content creation. And so having a Twitch channel, that's what I'm most excited for sure. Mm-hmm. And that makes sense, because I'm a content creator and not somebody who, opens booster boxes. So,
yeah, I mean, ultimately, again, this is it sounds weird because no one's ever done it, and that's cool.
Right.
And it's not going to you can't really necessarily scam it, because I'm opening the cards live. You're going to see exactly what I get. We're going to put them in a little box and we'll send them off to you.
And we've seen channels like that be popular, but they certainly aren't doing anything exactly like this.
Right. So I'm ready to break some new ground. I want everybody to show up, see if they can. Definitely going to try out, sort of how these things go, how the momentum goes. If that's the right time period, for example, if it would be better if we did this at 6 o'clock at night instead of noon, for example. I can see arguments either way. A lot of people like to hang out on Twitch at work, like to have it down in the corner or something. This is also similar to what comic book stores have been doing. They've been going through a lot of comic book stores have been streaming and just saying, here's all my Thor comics. Who wants all my Thor comics for $10 or whatever? And people just buy it.
Good question in chat. What about your international fans?
It's singles, baby. It don't matter. We ship those around the world. So we're not shipping sealed product. We're shipping open.
Oh no,
singles.
they're saying will you take their money? Will you? Okay, all right.
Yeah, we're working out flat rates inside the U.S. right now for cool stuff. All single shipping is 99 cents, and we're trying to figure out what the right rates are for the rest of the world. Because absolutely, if you win it and you're in Australia, let's do this. It's all good.
I bet the chat is actually going to be really fun for this.
Sounds really fun.
I might actually show up just to hang out and chat.
Yeah.
Because that actually sounds like the kind of thing where the chat would be, because I've watched people at Magic events. I'm sure that you guys have seen this or been a part of this, where you go up to a dealer booth and they do the pack war, where you open up a booster pack and then you try to have the highest total converted mana cost of like the 8 of you that are opening the booster pack, and the winner wins all the packs. That's what this sounds like to me. It sounds interesting.
Yeah. And we'll see how it goes. Again, I hope you guys like the idea. I'm always, of course, curious of your feedback, so let me know about that stuff. Moving on here. Is it Ray Sato? Ray Sato?
Ray Sato.
Ray Sato.
We went over this last week.
We did.
His whole name.
We did.
Sato.
Sato was disqualified recently from an event. This is when he played the takesies backsies randomly in the middle of the attack step. That was a problem. Here's what Wizards is doing about it, essentially, because he's in the Magic Pro League. After a thorough review of the events leading up to his disqualification, the Player Investigations Committee determined that Sato's disqualification was valid, that the actions were opportunistic but not premeditated nor intended to deceive his opponent. The Player Investigation Committee recommended an official warning. Sato will not be suspended from DCI. However, players in the MPL are held to a higher standard in both play and conduct. Therefore, the MPL has revoked his invitation to the $1 million Mythic Invitational at PAX East.
Yeah.
Did I just black out in the middle of the sentence and then they changed their mind in the middle? I didn't read the thing. It sounds like they're talking out both sides of their mouth.
Well, speaking of cheating and unethical things, there was also an update to the tournament rules. I'm surprised it's not in here, but I know that got a lot of people talking about the fact that it might make cheating a little more easier. Basically, it sounds, I mean, I only paid attention to certain sections, but it sounds like the overall gist of it is that the punishments for certain actions have been reduced. And so that's leading some people to think that this is going to lead to more of those infractions. And Magic is already in a strange place when it comes to cheating. You know, we've seen people like Bertoncini get away with so many things. You know, they don't appear to be as firm as some people would like. And so to have something like this, where some people are going, why is he still allowed in the MPL at all? And then on top of this rules change comes out. People are kind of going, okay, why are we, it's just not firm enough for a lot of people.
Well, what on the magicjudges.org blog posted recently was the policy changes for Ravnica Allegiance, and this being 2 new match losses, improperly determining a winner, essentially when you roll a die to see who wins, and bribery and wagering are now match losses. They are no longer disqualifications, where you would have people who are like, oh my God, did I just accidentally bribe that person? I had no idea that was what I was doing. And they're out and they're DQ'd and they get some amount of months, you know, for that disqualification. And we have someone in the Magic Pro League who was uninvited from one event and is still being paid by Wizards of the Coast to do all the things. And yet, when I've seen this type of infraction, you know, something that is necessarily small, not necessarily unbelievably game-changing, usually it's like 3 months and you're done. Like, you go, you do your 3 months, that was stupid, you can learn better, and here we go. So now not only is it 0 months, it's the invitation pulled, and nothing else happens.
Yeah, but he got the invitation pulled.
He did get the invitation pulled.
That's huge. That's the big thing. Right?
I suppose.
That seems way worse. I would rather have had it be the other way around if I were Ray Sato.
I mean, if it were 3 months, I think it would have also encapsulated that event, but I'm not sure about that. I haven't looked. That's the paycheck is the Mythic event, the Mythic Championship.
event.
Right.
So it just seems like that they didn't really want to choose one or the other. I'm not sure I'm on board with what the announcement was.
In terms of it being too lenient or not?
Pick one or the other. Either he's innocent or he's not.
There's also a big rules change in terms of packs. Before, if you forgot to pay for your pack, like your Summoner's Pact or your Pact of Negation, I believe you would just lose the game at that point. And so now they're allowing you to pay for it. But that's really interesting, because how do you prove that someone forgot about it? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you prove that intent of whoopsies, or, you know, that kind of bothered me.
I know back in the day as a PTQ grinder, getting somebody on their packs was like a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
You were like, I want you to draw that card, and I'm over here flipping the thing, and I'm playing the stuff, and I'm asking the questions, and checking the life totals, and making sure you're good. All right, man, go ahead. And then they draw that card, and I'm like, Judge, and that is a game lost, ladies and gentlemen.
And
Like,
see, I play
that's all
Modern
it
ad
was.
nauseam where I kill people with the pack trigger on the stack, where it's like, as I'm about to die, kill you.
Wait,
Another good packed trigger.
So black.
Another good packed trigger story that I heard was the first Grand Prix Montreal, which was Time Spiral Block constructed. I remember a story in which I believe it was BDM went up to Yuya Watanabe after day one when he went undefeated. I think this is how this story goes. If not, I'm just making it up, and it's still a fun story. He goes up to Yuya, and Yuya is undefeated but looks a little bit like sad about it. And BDM's like, "You're undefeated. What's the problem?" And Yuya says, "I only could prevent 2 of my opponents."
This is a Kenji Samura story.
Is it Kenji? It's not
Kenji.
Yuya? Okay.
It's Kenji. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
I could only prevent 2 of my opponents from drawing or from losing the game after missing pack triggers.
It's amazing. I mean, also said like Kenji's just incredible and a force to be reckoned with, and that's awesome. Some other rules updates, and this is the one we talked a little bit about, which was Ajani's Pridemate being a must. You now must put a counter instead of may put a counter.
Which is an arena only update, or is that also live?
No, it's official tournament policy.
Well, I guess you don't want to like smite the monsters.
Well, according to my Twitter feed, there are all these citywide bust decks that I've never played. That
Bless their hearts.
Citywide bust.
Right, and I'm just like,
no
one is If they're playing these cards, they're not doing it competitively. And if you're not doing it competitively, why do you really care? Is it really that big of a deal?
The bigger deal is that the cards are printed to say one thing and then function differently in real life. Which, to be fair, they've also changed before. Lest we forget, Hostage Taker and Invert and Invent also have functional real-life change that is not exactly what's written on the cards. So this is the first time that they've done it to a card where it worked as functional for a while, and now they've updated it basically.
I love the corner cases in the chat. If you're on Soul Sisters and they have Ensnaring Bridge and it's an Eternal Equinox, and it's like, all right, girl.
Sure. I mean, I get it. Look, we're all Magic players, okay? You can't ever deal in absolutes, all right? Only Siths do that, and I'm telling you, every Magic player can come up with every corner case you have ever imagined. It's silly, but they ultimately explain, like, look, this was because of the rules of the time and about beneficial triggers and all this other garbage, and they kind of fixed that anyway.
Prize Amalgam was affected. I believe you can miss the Prize Amalgam trigger, where Prize Amalgam used to be a must, but if you forget it, I believe the opponent has the ability to put it on the stack, and then you can, if I understand it correctly, you can miss Prize Amalgam triggers now, which sucks.
Yeah, because Prize Amalgam falls in a weird corner case that Desecration Demon fell under, which was like, is it a beneficial trigger or not?
Woof.
Based on how it's worded.
It also has something to do with like end step cleanup stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
The other thing is that apparently the affected card, Ajani's Pridemate, is in the guild deck, or is coming in a guild deck.
No, in a challenger deck. This is the first time they've tipped their hand as to what is happening when this is changing and when we'll see it in print for the first time. So that's really interesting. That clearly, I think a white-red, probably LSV's deck or something very similar to it is what we're going to see as the challenger deck, which would be really interesting because that has History of Benali in it, and that card's worth lots of dollars. Okay,
so those were, just to refresh my memory, those were the standard decks, the standard pre-constructed decks they released, like Approach of the Second Sun, Marty's Equals. Yes. Okay, yeah, I bought one of those.
Yeah, and they're doing it again this time. And
those were great.
Oh, last time they showed up and they sold out immediately. And
I bought one that Friday, yeah.
And so did I. It got me to play FNM for the first time in years.
Yeah, I played Approach.
Absolutely. And so, sure enough, here we are for round 2. Now, where they are clearly stumbling, and they should have just knocked this out of the park. When you buy the deck for the Challenger deck, you should get it on Magic Arena, but they didn't do that. And I'm just, guys, really? It seems like a pretty easy bar.
That would get me to play Arena.
That would be really smart, is here's your code to get it on your account.
Exactly. Yeah. Which would be amazing. So please, for 2020s, do that. But I'm still pumped for the new ones, and it will still probably get me back in FNM because, again, I don't have to spend infinite dollars. I don't have to spend infinite time. I can just buy the thing, buy some sleeves, and play. And that's what I want to do, which is great. So as well as being modern ban changes, there were no changes for the Commander ban lists, but there was something else announced. They are announcing the formation of the Commander Advisory Group to serve as the primary advisory body to the Commander Rules Committee. and its membership is comprised of well-known and well-regarded personalities in the Commander community. This would be Adam Staborski, Charlotte Sable, Charlotte Sable, Josh Lee Kwai, Rachel Agnes, Ron Foster, and Shivam Bot. And that's Shivam Bot. Sorry, I can never say anything right. It's my brand now. Is just mispronouncing everything all the time.
This is a really cool initiative. They're finally adding. The Commander Rules Committee was always sort of it always sort of felt like a shadowy cabal. I don't know if that was just my impression of it or what, but certainly adding new very visible people. I mean, Shivam was just at the pre-release. He's on the Commanderin podcast. Rachel is on VSL and does a ton of content. Josh Lee Kwai does Command Zone. I mean, all of these folks are huge names in the community and in the Commander community specifically. And I think bringing in this variety of voices is an excellent move forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to play Commander now. You have the products that are really great at bringing in new people. And, when you're making decisions, that involve banning, you want to make sure that you're really covering all of those bases. You want to make sure that all of those communities and all of those subsections of Commander are really being served. And I think the best way to do that is by adding some new faces to this council that might have been made up of, kind of antiquated, people who don't really get to see beyond their perspective. So I think this is a good thing as a Commander player myself. I'm really excited to see what they do. And yeah, I think this is great.
Absolutely. So speaking of things that are great, there was a post that showed up yesterday, which was pretty amazing. Cloud City Games put on their Facebook, they mentioned, they're like, look, we're not trying to get political, and if businesses are smart, they don't get political, and no one's trying to get political. He just said, look, government shutdowns at 31 days. And that is insane. And the people who are affected by it are really, really affected by it. And he said, look, there's three things. They're going to say, if you're a comic book subscriber, you come and get your comic books. They are free. If you play in any of our scheduled events normally, show up and play. It's free. And if you're hungry and need a meal, show up and we'll figure it. We'll cover it. Same goes if you need somewhere to go to pass some time. We're all in this together. Absolutely incredible. The support was ridiculous. And I guess,
and in typical Reddit fashion, the thread is locked because of course it is. Like, Reddit can't help themselves.
Yeah.
You can like things and that's okay,
But it's a very real concern. I've seen a couple of people on Twitter that are currently affected by the showdown that are like, this set looks sweet, I can't afford it. This event looks sweet, I can't afford to go. It's very real for a lot of people. And it's one thing when your necessities are affected, like your food and your shelter, but people deserve to have a hobby. People need fun in their lives. And so, we talk about a lot of the essentials that are being missed out on, but people are missing out on their hobbies and their interests and things that make you feel something and get you up in the morning. And, nobody just lives this robotic life of eat, sleep, work. No, we need things to keep us interested and engaged. And kudos to this game store for just like, you might be going through some things, but you're still going to have comics to read. You're still going to have a story. You're still going to have people to be around. Yeah. Come get that sort of chicken soup for your soul.
Yeah, friendly local games. Putting the friendly in friendly local game store is Cloud City.
Very nice.
It's doing a very excellent public service. If you happened to know anyone who operates friendly local game stores, perhaps you could let them know that this is the thing that they could do. I'm not talking to anyone in particular at this moment, but it is easy for us to forget that the 50,000 people who are affected by this government shutdown.
Is it more than that?
It might be more than
800,000 people. Sorry. Yeah. So and it's a lot, and but I also understand
that they aren't human, right? They have stuff that they go to work and they aren't getting paid. They still have to go to work. So this is huge.
Yeah, this is great, and you're also in that spot where like you don't want to necessarily just like immediately kind of tag along, because then you're seeing like, oh, you're just trying to catch the buzz or whatever. It's like we're all trying to be wholesome and coming from the good parts here. We're not trying to be weird, predatory or whatever, or jumping on a good story or whatever. But either way, that is fantastic. Congrats to those guys. So from something very positive, something not so positive. MagicFest Kitakyushu is canceled.
You could say that, but you can't say Sato.
Something to do with the Japanese words.
It's Sato.
It's Sato. Okay, it's Sato. Well, MagicFest Kitakyushu is canceled in Kitakyushu, Japan. I'm gonna keep saying because she likes that.
Now you're just rubbing it in.
I know, right? Because I can. May 17th through 20th has been canceled. This is awkward due to a Wizard of the Coast scheduling error. What does that mean? We will be working with CFB Events to try to schedule another MagicFest event in Japan later in 2019. Yeah, sure. Due to the error, the planned venue for MagicFest Kitakyushu is no longer available, and a suitable replacement was not found in time. Somebody screwed up big time. Somebody just punted like it was, sleeved in
Let's
pigskin.
take an area that's already not getting very many Magic events and screw them out of another. Like that's bad.
Turns out the yearly Kitakyushu Con was happening, let's say, and they'd already booked the Hyatt. This is awkward and embarrassing.
Yeah, it sounds
surprising it actually hasn't happened before. If it has, it might have been before the show existed, but yeah, this is embarrassing and sad, and hopefully it gets fixed soon. The emphasis, by the way, on this word is Kitakyushu.
Oh, so
you were close enough.
Kitakyushu, got it. Well, yeah. So either way, somebody screwed up big time. This sounds like somebody didn't put the deposit in. They didn't put the paperwork in the right time. They didn't follow up on that email like they were supposed to. Something went wrong in that chain, and I feel bad for that person.
I feel like somebody probably lost a job because of this. I hope not, because I don't root for that.
No.
Right. I'm not all about ruined careers, but definitely this person should enjoy the feel bads because wow, this was quite the punt. Move on here to Desperate Ravings. Now, we talked a little bit about this last week. There is now a change.org petition. I'm going to put it here in chat if you want to check it out. For a better MagicFest and Grand Prix. I feel for them. I also understand, as being someone on the other side of, like, there's nothing you can do to stop this event from happening.
No.
Like, it's going to happen, and maybe it's going to suck, and yes, they're going to hold it against you more than likely. I hope they don't, but we're living in the real world here, and I'm telling you, if 500 people show up at that GP, it's a problem. It's a serious problem, regardless of how badly they scheduled it and how many mistakes were made in that regard. We're too far down the line. We should have been making this noise a year ago, and then maybe, as the instant they announced it, had this shown up, maybe there would have been a chance.
Yeah,
but there's no chance.
Yeah, I just kind of stand by what I said on the last show. It's obvious that, there are a lot of people who are trying to fill the void, that Wizards is leaving in Legacy. People are, there are all sorts of TOs and events happening all over the country. And, I think the only real change you can make is try supporting these other people if you can. I think that's really the only message you could be able to send, by not going to this event. Give your money to events that you can go to and TOs that will listen to you and support your formats.
And again, I feel nothing but bad, honestly, for these people because the concern is real and legitimate. It's just too late. It's too late.
It reminded me to update my change.org account information because apparently the last petition I signed, I lived in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania still.
That was like 4 months ago.
That was like 2 years ago at this point.
I'm just saying, you go through addresses like you're dodging child support. Like,
like you're dodging child.
You're not wrong, except for the child support part. But.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Shots fired. I got it. Speaking of shots fired, I guess. Aaron, can you tell us a little bit about the VClique Podcast?
Yeah, so the VClique Podcast is a podcast of Lady Magic players with Arctic Meebo, Visa, Jessa Steffen, Emma Handy, and Cat Light. And they announced on Twitter this past weekend that they are going to be ending the show. They were very transparent about the fact that they'd been having some differences between them and that they aren't the type of people to kind of fake it and push content when they don't really feel like making it. And so they announced that the show would be ending. And it's always sad to see a show go, especially one that was as novel as this one. Every time the Women in Magic conversation comes around, it gets a little bit easier. The road gets a little bit smoother. And so I was glad to see that this show was not met with some of the criticism that my show was, when the Girlfriend Bracket launched or when Proven Combatants launched or Married to the Game launched. It got a little bit easier this time around. And they seem to have a really good formula. They seem to all be playing the game. They were more competitive than I think a lot of other shows are, which is good. We needed that. But they just weren't able to make it work. And so I'm sad to see them go. They're all still making content in their own veins. They're all still grinding. And so I hope that we do continue to see them in some capacity.
It was a super unique show in the zeitgeist. We haven't used that word in a while. In the
Get your bingo cards.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, we haven't used the bingo cards in a while either. Maybe we need some updates. But yeah, it was a really unique and valuable perspective to have. It was just a really community-driven, competitive show. It seemed like it was and obviously the way that they announced it, they were very open, very transparent about the situation, which was also just a breath of fresh air to see. So,
they were also
going forward. Sad to see it go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better to burn out than fade away.
Just really emphasizing how hard content creation is, which we'll certainly talk about with another article. But
and I don't mean shade by that.
It's very easy to start a podcast. It's very difficult to maintain one, and they had a meteoric rise. I mean, before the first episode even came out, they had 1,500 followers on Twitter. All of them were really good at branding, at marketing. The show took off so fast, and there's a lot of pressure there and other things.
Sometimes it's too fast, as it were. So. Oliver too got screwed out of some money, and
are we still talking about this?
We are still talking about this now. Clearly, Oliver and I have had our differences in the past. He has thrown expletives my way. I may or may not have earned those expletives for calling out.
May or may not have
calling out poop as I see poop. Sometimes I call it out, and that happens. But that's okay because I also think that this is horrible, and. Braham Thomas split the finals of Grand Prix Pittsburgh, and I think he got the trophy, right? Because they played it out or whatever. And so that said, that means he got the full amount for first place. And when Oliver brought this up the first time, there was a lot of hubbub, a lot of anger, a lot of what are you doing? This is total scumbag. So Braham sent him 50% of what he owed him, half. And now the other half has suddenly vanished into taxes, quote unquote. And he has to talk to his lawyer, quote unquote. And nothing's happening, and Oliver has never gotten the rest of his money. And he doesn't, at this point, necessarily expect it, but he does seem to hate him. He does seem to hate when he puts him on blast, as he tweets here, so he's going to do it again.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it comes back up to, wait, who is this guy? What did he do? And then here comes the past, and the criminal past comes up.
Yeah, let's remind the people who the person is. This is, you and Oliver have had your differences, but you're both good people. This is not a good person.
Yeah.
That we're dealing with here. Someone who has been dealing with the law for a portion of his life.
Not to mention his name is Bram.
Well, that's the least offensive of the things.
Just saying, it's up there.
That's an offense from his mama. Everything else has been of his own creation, such as the criminal background and the no pays. There's a special place in hell for people who don't pay out based on splits. Having lived a majority of my life in Magic the Gathering and then in poker, having to deal with a lot of money and handshake deals between friends and friends of friends. I have no patience for this sort of situation. I am more than happy to put this person on blast as much as is humanly possible. So keep saying his name until because he doesn't like it. So if he doesn't like it, great. That's the best that we can get right now, and hopefully Oliver gets paid.
I mean, there's nothing better than than Oliver having him in his phone as owes me $2,500. That's just that's choice. This last came up the end of July. That's the last time he got sent money. Last time we talked about this, and never sent the rest of it. Certainly doesn't look like he's planning on it. Jeez. But it did lead to a weird conversation at one point, essentially saying that SCG helps split the prize money when it's requested, and other events will help split the money as they request to A, B, and C. Well, Wizards don't work that way. Wizards is like the winner, whoever's in first place gets the first place money. If you have an arrangement, we're not a part of it. And basically the question was, why doesn't Wizards offer the ability to split when all of these other entities allow you to do that? And I was just basically said, like, look, it's just too much. It's too much work for Wizards. And I know it sounds dumb in some ways, but like the machinations of a corporation that has lots of processes and lots of ways of doing things and tax reporting and all this other stuff that's going to be affected by changing the amount of money that you give people every single event because they had their different price structures and they had their different splits, and you have to know that and you can't screw that up, or otherwise all sorts of things go wrong, versus saying, look, first place gets first place money and you do what you want. I don't think it's necessarily negatively affecting people. Oliver, clearly trusted this guy and got burned. I still don't think that's Wizards' fault. I certainly understand it from a corporate, the machine moves slowly. You can only get so much stuff changed and done in your world. If you were to work at Wizards, like, this isn't the hill I'm dying on, is to make sure we get splits at events.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, similar with poker. Not everyone will help facilitate a split. It's similar with other competitive games where it's not necessarily only on the tournament organizer, but it would be nice if it were full service everywhere you went. Sometimes not. In this case, it's brutal. Just if you're doing the split, then you gotta have some verification. The good news is that most of the time when you get to the upper echelons of the Grand Prix and the Pro Tour circuit, everyone sort of knows each other at that level, or most people do, and so it's much easier. In this particular case, he doesn't particularly care.
And that's just unfortunate. And again, I feel for Oliver. He earned his money fair and square. They had a deal, and he reneged on it.
It's a thing that you can do exactly once. I don't think that anyone's ever going to be offering a split with that person ever again, if that person ever enters a Magic tournament ever again.
It's true. So we are entering an interesting world when it comes to Magic the Gathering, and particularly Magic the Gathering Arena, because we're now in the esports world. Because we're in the esports world, we're getting all sorts of esports interest, as it were. And by that, I mean clickbaity, awful articles that are just absolutely ridiculous. And to anyone who's been in Magic for many years, this sounds like the dumbest thing you've ever heard. They listed 25 Magic the Gathering cards that are impossible to find and how much they're worth. Hold on a second. They're impossible to find, but here's how much they're worth.
Sure. They're relatively easy to find, but here's how much they're worth.
Yes, and it's the impossible, you won't believe number 8 type crap, where you're just like, guys, they're Magic cards. You're telling us how much they're worth.
The list has some cute ones on it.
It's got some adorables. Tarmogoyf's in the middle somehow.
Tarmogoyf's in the middle.
Which is weird. Above Mox
Jet, which wasn't it just reprinted?
It was just reprinted, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they included the full art Mutavault, though, Evan. That
was nice.
Particularly had some love for.
Mm-hmm.
And the highest rated Mox on the list, everybody. Number 1, Black Lotus. Number 2, Ancestor Recall. Number 3, Mox Ruby. We did it.
Yay, we got there, fam. It's just so weird. They don't even go by necessarily the highest number that they're worth.
No.
So Tarmogoyf is above Underground Sea, which what? You can't reprint one of those, guys. Like, it's a little silly. This is the type of silly article that you kind of have to get used to as we enter the mainstream of, like, they're going to take something that doesn't make any sense to anyone who's actually in the hobby and try to make a big deal out of it.
And the worst thing about this, and we've all been there, is your family member who didn't normally care about Magic is going to see things like this and then tag you and be like, Screen Rant said that this was an important card for that little thing you do every Friday. And I'm like,
I get sent the same 3 Magic articles and the same 2 D&D articles.
I've had exes I haven't talked to in years that will dust off the DMs to be like, did you see this article about Magic? And I'm like, yes, I did. Thank you.
We laughed at it and we moved on. Yes, we did see it. And no, it was not great. Magic with Zuby wrote a piece of content recently called The Other Side of Content Creation. And kind of discusses that content creation essentially is not all, roses and fans and Patreon dollars raining down. The dark feelings of not being good enough, talking into the void, asking yourself, does it even matter, and so on and so forth. The idea that you do a lot of work, you don't necessarily get a lot of attention. That's also a big deal and a serious issue. And, even for me, at some point, the Magic show began to be this mountain that I couldn't climb it anymore because it would take me longer and longer and longer to make the episodes that I was happy with. And I was like, I still like to make things, and I love you two guys, so let's like make stuff so I can still make things, and I like to be a part of the community, but I can't do this for 20 to 30 hours every single week for a 10-minute show or whatever. And it wore on me. So, and those are things that are tough to battle with.
Yeah, this really resonated with me because I feel like this is a perspective that we don't hear a lot of. You hear a lot of the popular creators say how difficult content creation is, and we're very fortunate, but the things that we go through are very unique. And I think it's very trite sometimes for us to kind of talk about that. Or when people ask us, they're like, well, how did you make it? And it's like, the unfortunate reality, the real tea, is that it's not always the hardest working people that get the things. I know when Vintage...
Not me. I'm not a hardworking person.
He's really not. But I know when Vintage Super League came out, there were a lot of people that were like, you've only been playing Vintage for 2 years. This guy's been playing Vintage for 10 years. Why is he not on VSL? And it is a combination of charisma, luck, to be quite honest. Yep. Are you entertaining, being in the right place at the right time? The reality is it isn't necessarily about your skill level or how hard you are working. There are a lot of people who work very, very hard that unfortunately aren't given the same opportunities. And I really appreciated hearing from this side of it, because it's very easy to forget. A lot of us came up very quickly, and we've been here a long time. And I think about where I was when I first started out. I was on the GKick network, until John Medina kind of lifted me up. And it's very important to hear, and it's very important to see other creators like this who are working very hard to give you content that you might have never heard of before.
Yeah. And Evan and I Evan earlier than I, but even I was, relatively early, like one of the first YouTube content creators in Magic.
Oh yeah, I will certainly note, I got lucky because I knew YouTube was a huge thing before everyone decided that YouTube was a huge thing. So
you got there first.
I'll take it.
I was like 7th, but I was still there way early, and I'm like the only one of those 10 that are still around. It's like us, and then like I think Chapin figured it out pretty early, and that's like it from those early people.
I mean, Flores is still making content, which is nice.
Well, Flores wasn't on YouTube, though.
Right, Flores was on YouTube, but yeah, I mean, for the YouTubers that came and
the early YouTubers were like William Spaniel.
I think one of the ways to think about it, at least in terms of my end, there was a point at which I could do the Magic show full time, or do my job full time, and it was more important that I had insurance for my family and I had a steady income than it was for me to pursue a dream, which very well could have been far more lucrative, which could have been, absolutely ridiculously huge and whatnot. But there was a choice made there of like, I'm going to back up a little bit and, and then let Wedge and Clarion Community College like do their thing, which they certainly did. And they've done a heck of a job with it. And like be happy for them. I'm happy for their success. Go nuts, because they were able to create the network of people and editors and contributors that are needed to make those types of channels really hum, and that's great. Yeah.
For me, the goal has always been to kind of dance like nobody's watching. I'm certainly grateful for a lot of the opportunities that I've been given, but it was never the goal. I never started making content thinking I must get Wizards to notice me. I must be on the Community Cup. It was always, I'm going to do this thing I love, and if y'all want to come along for the ride, you can. But it was never the goal. And so, when I do get asked for advice, I always just tell people, if you do what you love to do, people will gravitate towards that, and that will kind of make you stand out, and it will all just kind of fall into place. And I know that sounds so cliche, but that's really the truth of it. If you're just doing what you love to do, it really does just sort of happen for you. And like I said, I don't even like to look at numbers. You love, Evan, you love to send us like graphs and metrics. And I'm like, I don't want to know. Like I go on every night assuming no one's going to watch us. And it's worked for me this far. Like I don't wrap myself in the downloads, the views. I don't do it.
I try not to wade too far into it, because usually, and when I finally sort of end up doing it, and I'm like, oh God, I'm so afraid of looking, and I'm like, oh, those numbers are actually pretty sweet, so I want to show you guys they're sweet. And then I like run away, and I never look at those our numbers for like 3 months or whatever, because they scare me. But either way, it's a grind. It's a thing, and you got to either get used to it or get off the chain. All right, so next up is a story that I actually love. This is great. This was what was going to be Evan yells at Wizards moment, And turns out to be Evan is super awesomely excited by how Wizards responded, because someone mentioned that they're new to MTGO and they made a new account a few hours ago. And on the Magic Online website, it stated that you got 800 cards to jumpstart your collection, 40 of each basically, and 2 copies of commons and uncommons from each set currently legal and standard, which could be a big deal. Light up the stages were like $1.50 a piece right now.
Yeah.
And several iconic rare cards from the most recent Welcome decks. And they opened their starter kit, and those uncommons and rares weren't there. And they contacted the ORC support, only to be told that uncommons and rares are no longer included in the starter kit. What? To which point you go, guys, this is really awful. Wizards, come on. And they went like, wham, just got in there with the customer service hammer, nailed it. Allie Medwin showed up and said that was not correct information, and they're sorry. They're going to fix that thing right now. And then they went a step further, and they said, we're going to be granting an item that will contain all the cards that were listed on the website. This item is called Deck Builders Essentials, and will be found in the collection tab's Other Products filter. Every new account made since that website went live will be getting one of those items, so you don't have to contact game support. Okay. And they're getting it taken care of today, and that's absolutely fantastic. So way to go, Wizards! You crushed it. That's
good on them.
This was nice. Terrific customer service, and they killed it. And way to go. And those grants are already complete. So if you've made a new Magic Online account recently, you should check your account, because you probably have something cool in there.
And if you're brand new to Magic Online, be sure to go over to cardhoarder.com. Magic the Gathering Online Beginner's Guide, which is very helpful for starting your MTGO collection.
And tell them Magic Mike sent you.
That's right.
All right. Let's talk about some splash damage, y'all. Splashiest of damages. We got a few minutes here. I want to crap on Artifact again because it's fun.
It has a family, Evan.
This ain't Artifact, Mike's. So pile it on.
Look,
although we may want to consider a spinoff of that new Farmers game. Wasn't there like a 25,000 Farmers Mike's?
Farming simulator. Yeah.
There we go.
They don't mess around over in Europe with their simulators.
Mike's. I mean,
I've spent some time with Euro Truck Simulator. That game was fun.
I've done a little hoeing and plowing. It's fine.
Wow. Okay. Well, look.
How much hoeing and plowing, Aaron?
Hey, this is a family show.
In the chat. Rhino's still in the chat. We can't.
Family show. The collectible card game Artifact released on November 28th and had 60,740 concurrent players on that day. And last night, at least as when this article was written, it was down below 1,500 people. It is currently ranked 145 on the Steam charts, which wedges in between Dark Souls 2 and Assassin's Creed Origins, 2 games that have been out for over a year.
Yikes.
Portal 2 has more players than Artifact right now. That game came out like 10 years ago. And Artifact this is a game that like I pulled some strings to get in there, and I was like, oh man, I got to see this. We want to be there in the ground, blah, blah, blah. Make this happen. This is a Richard Garfield game. It was sweet. And Lord God, it was complicated. And I was like, whoa. I played Soulforge. Not only is it Soulforge, it's Soulforge on 3 different battlefields. And there's a mechanic in between the turns where you can go and buy cards from like a merchant so you can add cards to your deck while you're playing the game. It was madness, and it was crazy. And I was like, is this just me? And then Paulo Vito writes the article where he says, this is a game where every match is a control mirror. You just don't have aggro in this game. And so everything is inches, and everything is going to rely on certain random elements, as like they throw like little characters down or whatever, and they attack different lanes, and they do that randomly. And so it was hard to both get around some of the randomness as well as being one of the grindiest control matchups ever. When Stanislav Sivka says like, this is my favorite game of all time.
Right.
He's a chess grandmaster, y'all. I don't know if I want his favorite game of all time, to be honest. Yeah. No offense, Stan's a great guy, but like
the Eggs Pro Tour champion. Yeah, it's
just saying.
I mean, control mirrors are fun, right?
For some, I don't dislike them personally in Magic for a variety of reasons, but that doesn't necessarily mean I want to learn an entirely different game with entirely different mechanics and entirely different cards. You know what I mean? To learn the matchups and all this other garbage. And at the meantime,
like a lot went wrong with Artifact. A lot went wrong with their monetization, with their model, their advertising. Like lots of things came together. In addition to the fact that, they could have overcame that if it were the best game ever made, and it wasn't.
Yeah, it was tough, and I can see where Richard Garfield got the design from. I think again, clearly SoulForge influenced it quite a bit, and also helped with the lane thing because they're trying to connect it to Dota or whatever. And maybe this would have went much better many years ago when the Hearthstone was new and fresh and exciting. Digital card games were new and fresh and exciting. Dota 2 was more interesting, I think, many years ago than it is these days. But so much went wrong, and it's kind of sad, really. But whatever. Let's move on here to some sweet pink news. Go ahead, Aaron. What's going on here?
This was the highlight of my weekend. So Graham Linehan is a former television writer who really does not like trans people. He recently campaigned to have government funding pulled from an organization called Mermaids, which helps transgender and gender nonconforming youth, and was successful. They are in danger of having their funding pulled, which is a very, very big deal. Hbomberguy is a popular gamer streamer who kind of saw all of this going on and was like, what can I do? I really want to do something. So he got the idea to launch a marathon stream playing a game called Donkey Kong 64 with the goal of getting to a 101% completion rate, which is not easy. It takes at least 36 hours to do, I believe. And over the course of 57 hours, he managed to raise over $300,000 for this organization, which is going to make up half the funding that this organization stands to lose, which is a really, really big deal. And it blew up. Everybody was talking about it. He had a really impressive array of guests. Mara Wilson, who we know from Twitter, and Matilda and Mrs. Doubtfire, she was on the show. John Romero, the creator of Doom. Grant Kirkhope, who composed the music for Donkey Kong 64 and even voiced Donkey Kong in the games.
Wow.
What really pushed it over the top was when Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez came on the stream and everybody lost their minds. I was in the chat. I remember I was in the Twitch chat. She shows up in the Discord and people are thinking it's Discord. Someone's just using her name. It's fine. Then 2 minutes later, you hear like this ruffling and she's in the chat and they're like, do you want to introduce yourself? Yeah. And then she does, and the chat just blew up. Twitter blew up. It was just a really, really incredible moment. This is a really great example of somebody having a platform and wanting to do something with it. There's a lot of really crappy stuff going on nowadays. Let's keep it real. And it's very easy to feel like there's nothing you can do. And this is somebody who didn't just want to sit back and watch something crummy happen, and he ended up doing something amazing. And I was there for a lot of it. A lot of our viewers were as well, and it was just a really, really beautiful, beautiful thing.
Awesome. This is one of those things, like, for the people who like the AOC. I mean, I can't listen anymore right now. I can't. You were on a speedrun show.
It's just so 2019 that you would have a politician, a very successful politician, on a video gaming stream talking about income inequities and trans folks, and it was just like, what is our life right now?
I constantly see these headlines that are like, should more millennials be in Congress? And I'm just thinking, I'm interested to see what your alternatives are, considering the fact that the rest of you gonna die before we do. And it's no, AOC, first of all, heart emoji, heart eyes emoji, everything about her, and also amazing at politics. But more importantly, she also has tweeted about her League of Legends account before. She's tweeted about Twitch before. She is of this generation and of this audience. It's no surprise that the Republicans have no idea how to deal with her specifically, because she's been playing League of Legends her whole life, so she's just pulling aggro for the entire Democratic Party, and just tanking for everybody with her AOC AOE.
Oh my God! Look at this! Look at what Jason Rainville painted for Graham. #Thanks Graham. Painted him as Donkey Kong, which was super cool.
He painted Bomberman. That's Bomberguy as Donkey Kong.
Bomberman, yeah.
Bomberguy's the blonde guy.
Hbomberguy, yes.
Yeah, Linehan is this hideous-looking thing with brown hair.
Oh, bother.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's the one. He's the villain in the story.
Yeah, he is. No one's painting him.
Yes.
There you go. Well, either way, that was...
Except for himself, into a corner.
This guy. Oh, my goodness. Well, yeah, we got all the jokes. Look, what we're doing right now is we're going to pull up this thing. We have approximately 2.5 minutes to fill.
Oh boy.
So,
really?
Well, we can close the entries and we can pick the winner.
Okay.
If you would like.
Yeah, sounds great. Let's do it.
All right, we're closing the entries. Picking the winner. Here we go. Frozen Dookie. In with those winter. Frozen. Congratulations. Please contact Original Ostra Zero on Twitch. She'll get you your code. Look out for Frozen Dookie, okay?
I thought I blocked all the Frozen Dookie, but I guess I'm going to have to keep my eyes peeled.
It could have been Frozen Dookie.
They're in the chat, too. Okay.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, I'd hope so.
I don't know.
With a name like Frozen Dookie, it's got to be good. It's got to be fantastic. Oh my
that reminds me of when I used to raid, or even when I still raid. But you'd be in your raid, and like somebody would need a cooldown, and they would always have like this really terrible screen name, and they'd be like, your mom's junk needs a battle res. I was like, I can't do it. Like I can't.
Yeah.
You just let them go. So I'm sorry. You have to pay for that.
That reminds me of my Halo days when it's like you've been killed by your mom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely terrific. All right, let's go here. I will discuss the subscriptions. Ruben will discuss the bits, which is awesome. And there's, I hope you can also see the little bit. There's some notes attached to some of these bits as well.
Oh, can I read those? I don't know if those are in my thing.
That's okay. I'll cover them as you get to them. In that case. Anyway, Chalisadria, subscribe via Prime. Thank you very much. Super Nintendo Chalmers 1998 resub
Nintendo Chalmers. We've been over this one, Evan.
Yes, resub for 6 months. Thank you very much. MTG Effect resub via Prime for 5 months, which is awesome. Captain Harlock 13 has subscribed via Prime. Thank you very much. And I think those are all the subscriptions for this week.
Nice. House of Shadow 69 bits. Nice. H. Kane Andrew, 105 bits.
Who is hosting a charity Magic event this weekend. If you're in the Illinois area, you should hit him up for more details if you love Standard. I keep meaning to go to this thing, and I just never get around to it, but you should definitely check that out if you're looking for a fun Standard event this weekend for a good cause.
Rockford, Illinois, and Saturday, their 4th annual Forest City Community Cup. They're approaching $10,000 for local kids' charities in our 4th year. So rock that out. That's awesome.
Speaking of charities, I will also be attending the Hunter Burton Open in March, which I'm so excited about. I've heard really great things about it, and I'm so excited to go for the first time ever.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Okay.
Awesome. Smill Cows, 300 bits. Thank you so much. And MTG Effect coming in right there. There at the end, 1,000 bits. Thank you so much, everybody.
Smellcows noting, thank you, 3, for all you do. I'm glad to have you in our community. Cheer 100, and of course, MTG Effect with the 1K.
Thank you
guys so much. You are wonderful. And we are going to turn the corner to the finisher. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Wow. Hold on.
Ocasio?
Alexandria.
Ocasio.
Cortez,
thank you.
All right, proceed.
God, sometimes it's just an hour plus of shame is what it is. It's just shame.
It's a lot of names.
Alexandria.
It's a good thing that you don't talk for a living.
Yeah, not a bit. Not part of my living comes in from my voice. Yeah. Well, AOC of New York's 14th joined Nintendo 64 speedrunner Hbomberguy during a live stream event this past Sunday that helped raise money for transgender kids. This is the latest in a trend of mainstream celebrities embracing the Twitch audience. The most famous of which occurred last year when rapper Drake joined Fortnite streamer Ninja for more than 600,000 concurrent viewers. I actually think it was higher than that, wasn't it? It was ridiculous.
Well, it was more than.
Now,
it certainly is not factually inaccurate.
Sure. Now, Magic Mike's is on Twitch, and we're hip, cool.
We really are.
With it. So if a major mainstream celebrity were to crash our party, who should it be and why, Ruben?
A celebrity cameo I'd like for Magic Mike's would be AOC's fellow Congresswoman, Senator Kamala Harris. She's the first Democrat to officially announce she's running for president, making her the first pick. California has had a bit of a drought, water crisis, so she'd be perfect for splash damage. And as a senator from Oakland, she has recent experience in dealing with the recent arena metagame of dealing with tons of mountains and burn.
Oh, wow. Too soon.
Too soon.
Yeah, Aaron? Probably.
Well, I can think of no better celebrity to join us than Joe Manganiello. He's a pop culture icon in Justice League and True Blood to bring in the fans. He's been on Spellslingers, so you know that he plays. And most importantly, he too is the star of Magic Mike's, just, a different one.
Yeah.
Similar. but different.
Similar.
We actually can't say his character's name from that movie because this is a family show.
Oh boy. He's dancer number 3. Okay.
Sure.
Obviously, the perfect celebrity guest for Magic Mics would be German philosopher, political theorist, and political revolutionary Karl Marx. Every Magic Mike segment is perfect for him. Gather the townsfolk, desperate ravings. As the author of the Communist Manifesto, he'd especially feel at home in the red zone. There's just one problem. He'd never be on our show because as a socialist, he's just too big of a fan of limited resources.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was choice. That's awesome. And that ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me, and thank you everybody for tuning in.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you. And tune into the Zweihander show, Black Hearts, on Friday, if you haven't already. And the VSL next Tuesday. Are you playing next Tuesday?
I am making my debut.
There you go.
Magical Mystery Auctions this Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern. CoolStuffInc.com's new Twitch channel. We'll see you there.
I think I'm going to show up. I think that the chat for that is actually going to be kind of fun.
It sounds super fun. But we're going to move to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-hosts, God almighty. My co-hosts, Aaron Campbell and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching or listening, and hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe, do everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Talk to us privately at magicmicspodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at magicmicspodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week. Same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.
Rhino, go to bed.
Oh boy, what a world.